Hello, everyone. It's Wallace from SchoolRubric, and we are really excited today to have with us Ken Davis, who is the head of school at Discovery School in Tegucigalpa, Honduras. Discovery School was founded in 1993 and currently serves approximately 300 students in grades pre-kindergarten to grade 12 and is accredited by Cognia and is a U.S. State Department Office of Overseas Supported School. Although Mr. Davis is originally from Ohio, he spent the last 25 years in international schools in Guatemala, Bolivia, Venezuela, and Honduras as a mathematics teacher, athletic director, dean of students, high school principal, and now head of school. Ken, thanks so much for speaking with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Wallace. Thanks for inviting me. Glad to share my experiences with you and anybody else listening. And go ahead with the questions. Let's see what we can do and answer and get some information out there.
Sure. Well, let's talk first about your school and what's going on. How are things in Honduras right now with respect to COVID? And what is your thinking and what are the plans for the school at the moment for the upcoming school year?
Sure. Well, COVID hit everybody and it hit us internationally in March, middle of March. And so we ended up finishing April and May completely online. Caught everybody off guard, but our school was very avant-garde with the technology. So we were able to meet those needs to finish the school year. Our plan this summer was to hit the ground running when we start up in August with more of a hybrid model. We made a plan so we could have students on campus, one group a couple of days, another group a couple of days, and then a fifth day would be for deep cleaning. Unfortunately, Honduras currently still stays in what's called phase 0. And so the education area is beyond phase 0. And so we're still struggling and dealing with online education. And so we've made a decision that our first month, August, will be completely online. That could be extended throughout the school year. And so right now, that's our goal. We're dealing with the online. We're going to be offering an online system the entire year for those parents that are unable to make it on campus or not interested in joining on campus for, medical issues or just, for concerns. And so that's kind of our first scenario. We're prepared for continued online education. We're also prepared to have students on campus as soon as possible as well, because as we know, we all miss our students. That's what we're all about. We're here to educate those kids and be with them in the classrooms, and we miss them.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got so much planning to do and you almost have to take it day by day and step by step. But it's nice to see that you guys have some kind of plan in place and have provision for all the possible different outcomes. But let's talk a little bit more about the pandemic, because a lot of people kind of think the pandemic is a one and done event. Everyone kind of thinks at some point in time we will be back in physical schools. But I kind of wonder, as an educational leader, what your take on the future of education looks like. Do you see some of the things that are happening with respect to online learning as stopgap, temporary solutions, or the beginnings of perhaps larger education reform?
Oh, I think for a large majority of the schools, it will be what you're saying, the stopgap. It's going to be a short-term solution for the majority. And that's not necessarily saying that that's exactly what it should be. There's a lot of schools that are trying to be more avant-garde. I mean, imagine the schools that were online 100% education before this COVID. They're relishing in this. They're enjoying, they're prepared for this. And so the traditional schools, we're kind of catching up. And so what's going to happen once we do get students back onto campus, we might be our school or other schools, the necessity to continue that online education. What it does is it really takes down the physical barriers of being on site, whether it's in the country, in the city, or, it could be in a completely different part of the world. And so while a lot of the schools will take this as, okay, we're just getting this done until COVID is settled down and we're able to have the kids, I do think that the more forward-thinking schools need to continue this as an option to offer to their parents and their students is for further services, because I do see the benefit of the online. I do see some of the perils, especially with some of the younger students, and I see a lot more of the benefits as they do get older and they're more mature and able to be more independent learners. But that's one of the best things that I found out about this whole COVID is the level of independence of all of our learners, even the nursery, pre-kinder students, kinder, all the way up to the seniors. The level that they've matured in the past few months has been exponential, and we look just forward to seeing them become more and more independent learners along the way.
Amazing thoughts. Really appreciate that. The other thing that is really impressive about your background, Ken, is you've had such a storied career, international, in so many different roles, from math teacher to athletic director to high school principal. But this position at Discovery School happens to be your first headship post. And I'm curious to know, making that transition from high school principal to head of school and director, what have been some of the biggest learning curves that you've had to go through transitioning to a head of school position?
Well, again, I started off teaching mathematics, loved it, and then I just realized over the years that I was really good at just helping others understand, whether it was my students and whether it was my colleagues. And then I just said, you know what, I want to move further in administration where I get that opportunity to hire and put in place the persons that are going to be able to have that extend that education to the students, or I'll be able to share my education with the trickle down effect with the teachers so that they're then able to get it to the students. And so I love that idea of moving up in order to do that. I mean, we just had professional development kick off at our school, and I started it off by giving a professional development on how to make offline videos for asynchronous classes with my teachers. And that's the idea that, lead by example. And so that's something I've always been interested in. And so specifically what's been some of the learning curves. I think the biggest thing is when you're in a principalship, you're in a very administrative perspective from an academic perspective. You're still dealing with logistics, you still have a budget to deal with, but it is much more, I want to make sure the curriculum is met. I'm going to go and do observations of the teachers. I'm going to make sure that they are, getting the support that they need as staff members, that the education they're providing is great, and help them along and get them to be better educators. Moving up just one extra notch brings into a whole nother level of business orientation. So I've got to look at the full perspective. I've got to look at, tuition and costs there, and an overall budget that doesn't just affect a certain area, transportation, security. And so it just brings in another aspect of logistics. And being with a math background, I love the idea that I get to also apply and adjust numbers along the way, but I don't have to exclude numbers from being very, invested, humanitarian with the teachers or the staff or, the needs of those teachers. So it's not just a number. I also get to kind of bring the best of both worlds. And I think that's something that's been really exciting as a head of school to bring a balance in those two, just not have the one head of school that's just all about finances or the one that's all about academics, being able to kind of bring a little balance of both.
That's a wonderful perspective. Really appreciate that. And I know there's a lot of folks who will be listening in who are interested in making that step to their first headship post. And I know that information is going to be really valuable. Let's talk a little bit more about Discovery School. Not too many folks might know about that school. What are some of the exciting things that have happened at the school over the past few years under your leadership? And where do you hope to take the school for even further forward under your leadership?
Sure. Well, Discovery School, way back in 93, 94, when it was founded, it came out of parents wanting to have more of an intimate education, more centered around the students rather than having large classrooms and more of a business. And so that structure still is in place currently. Every school has a balance of in the budget of staffing versus operational costs. And as we know, in a education system, that staffing can be 60, 70, 80% of the costs of a budget of a school. At our school, it tends to be a little bit higher because we've got a beautiful ratio of students to teachers. We try to keep it between 13 and 15 students per one teacher. And that ratio is something that allows us to have individualized education for the students. And in the past couple of years, it's been great. We've started the school with, when I came, about 230 students. Last year, we ended with about 275. This year with COVID, definitely re-enrollment is an issue and a struggle, and we're trying to come up with a solution there. But we don't want to compromise on what it is that we want to offer, that individualized classroom, that intimate atmosphere. And I think I've been telling my teachers this specifically this year, but in the past, I've also said the same thing. There's two words that really summarize what's going to make Discovery School and many other schools successful in this COVID scenario. And it's two words. One is communication. That communication is parents with the teachers, teachers with the students, administration, everybody communicating, letting people know where they are. And the other is just flexibility, right? And I think that's where Discovery shines. The parents let us know their needs, and we try to be as flexible as we can to those needs. I was talking to teachers. I had a meeting with parents 2 days ago, and we had over 80 parents present. And I told them, I've got 80 parents here, and every one of you has a different need in your house. I don't know, what's going on. Are you both working? What's your technology scenario? What's your internet scenario? What's the maturity level of your children? And so you tell us those, communicate with us what it is your needs are, so that we can then be flexible and adjust to that curriculum, or adjust the curriculum to your needs. And I think that's one of the things that Discovery's done. And I think that's where we can continue to move forward, right? We've had the whole problem with COVID where, after school activities and sports and all that kind of get put on hold, but we want the education to continue and move forward. And while we're able to continue to offer an individualized education for the students, that's going to be the heart and soul of Discovery and what they can and will be offering and what we can offer.
It's quite remarkable, Ken, that you've had such longevity living and working overseas. What do you enjoy most about the overseas lifestyle, and what are some things that you miss most about being home?
What do I miss most about being home? I'll answer that one first.
Okay.
When I come home and I talk to my friends, a lot of them are still in the same cities, or they haven't really moved much. And they're like, "Hey, do you remember when this happened in high school and this happened?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember, or I've forgotten about that. Thanks for the reminder, because they're still living on those memories there. And it's a good thing, and I appreciate it. But I think one of the best things about living overseas is all the different memories that I've been able to make. Some crazy stories. I mean, if you ever seen the movie Up, and there's the old guy and he takes his house and balloons and he props it up where his wife wanted it to be. I've been to that place, in Venezuela. Bolivia has got these salt flats that are just beautiful. I've been seeing, pink dolphins in the Orinoco River in Venezuela. I've gone to Guatemala and seen the quetzals, and I go to the beaches and I can fly to Roatan and be there to snorkel and scuba dive. And so, I mean, just the stories that are able to be created. And I can't even begin to talk about as a father. I mean, my daughter is going to be a junior at university this year. And, my wife is Guatemalan. So my daughter is obviously this hybrid Latina. But it's great when one of the first things people ask her, well, what's your first language, or what's your native language? And she's like, I don't know, it's English and Spanish, or people ask her, about cultural sensitive activities and stuff. And she's like, I don't know, it just is. And so it's just fun to be in this whole world. And I love to share those experiences. And so when we have new staff come in, able to share those experiences with them, being bilingual in the Latin American country, being able to share my experiences with the locals. I think that's just one of the things I've really just enjoyed about being overseas, sharing experiences with the people that I'm at, with those that are coming in, and then taking those experiences and sharing it with people in my past as well.
Well, that's great. And I know, Ken, you're working so hard getting ready for the new school year, holding Zoom meeting and online meetings after online meeting. But, what are some of the things that you're doing yourself with your family to kind of just get off of work, to disconnect, to stay safe? What are some of the things that you're doing to pass the time besides work?
Sure. And we don't use Zoom, we use Google Meet, but that's okay.
Okay.
I'm just really trying to spend as much time as I can with the family, with COVID. For those that have jobs and you're able to stay at home, it's great. You get to be more of a family man, a family person. You get to enjoy that time with your spouse, with your children. It's fantastic. And that's one of the things that I've been able to really take advantage of. Cooking in the house or going on walks, in the woods and things like that. It's just been a much more nice family experience, and being able to share the time with them. I guess that family is the best way to express it all.
Sure. Ken, thanks so much for spending some time with us today. Really appreciate all the insight you're giving us on the new school year and all your perspective on international education and your career, and advice that a lot of people can learn from. Again, Ken Davis, Director of Discovery School in Tegucigalpa, Honduras. Ken, thanks a lot again. Best of luck for the new school year.
Thanks, Wallace. Best of luck as well to you. And I really appreciate, again, you taking your time, and wish you all the best. And I wish everybody a safe time in these trying times. And as I've said before to my students every day in April and May, don't forget, wash your hands.
That's right. Wash your hands. Stay safe. Thanks, Ken.
Take care.